Ele ficou conhecido no mundo todo quando lançou um livro contando suas experiências com a chamada terapia de vidas passadas. Agora propõe a seus pacientes e a seus leitores que mergulhem em um outro tempo, o futuro. No programa de hoje você vai rever a entrevista do psiquiatra norte-americano Brian Weiss, autor de Muitas Vidas, Muitos Mestres. Ele já vendeu 5 milhões de livros em todo o mundo, 1 milhão de exemplares no Brasil e esteve em Belo Horizonte para lançar Muitas Vidas, Uma Só Alma. Nossa conversa com o Dr. Brian Weiss a seguir. Dr. Weiss, such a pleasure to be able to talk to you in a time like this. I mean, it's the end of a year, the beginning of a new year, a perfect time to reflect maybe upon the future, maybe upon the past.
Com prazer para mim também, Leila.
Oh, thank you so much. So it's your 5th time in Brazil.
Sim.
And you've had time to learn a little Portuguese.
Pouquito pequeno português. So muito obrigado. Better in English, I think. For me.
We can mix Portuguese and English. So, Dr. Weiss, you've taken us on a journey into the past for so long. Now you are proposing a journey into the future. Where do you want to lead us?
Well, where I want to lead people is into freedom. Freedom from constrictions, freedom from fear. And it's really all part of the same process because the past and the future are connected. It really all leads back to the present time, this moment.
Yes.
And in the present moment is where people find peace, find joy. So if you can remember from the past to clear up symptoms, to feel better, and you can look into the future so you don't have to worry about that, then you'll be in the present time, feeling more joy and more peace. And this is where I want to take people.
And why is it so difficult for us to live the present, carpe diem?
Carpe diem. I think it's because of our conditioning. We're conditioned when we're very young by our parents, schools, church, cultures, to be fearful, to have these obstacles to our inner peace.
Yes.
Once we learn our real nature, and our real nature is to be spiritual. We are souls, not these bodies. This is temporary. This is what I find in my research. We're souls. So there was a beautiful French mystic about 150 years ago called Teilhard de Chardin. He said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
That's fascinating.
That's exactly
Teilhard de
correct.
Chardin.
See.
So before we start talking about your new book and our future lives, I would like you to tell people about the beginning, about your encounter with past lives and past life therapy, because I find it so interesting, the way you came upon something that was completely new to you.
Yes. For me, I was completely a skeptic because I'm a psychiatrist, a psychiatra, a medical doctor. And in my training, there's nothing about past lives, reincarnation, spiritual dimensions, masters, spirits, nothing. So I did not believe in these things. And I had a patient, Catherine, she's the woman in Many Lives, Many Masters. I wanted to use hypnosis, which is very safe. It's just focusing the concentration. When you're in the relaxed state. You can open your eyes at any time, you can't get stuck, it's not dangerous. Those are just myths. And I wanted to use hypnosis to find events in her childhood that might explain her symptoms. She had severe anxiety, depression, panic attacks.
Yes.
Finally, she agreed to let me do the hypnosis. And we went back to her childhood, but her symptoms remained severe. So I told her the next session, go back to the time when your symptoms first began. And she went back 4,000 years. I didn't believe in past lives, neither did she.
She took your words
She
too
took
seriously.
my words seriously, literally. And that's where her symptoms first began, because she drowned in that ancient life, in a Near Eastern lifetime. She drowned, and she had a fear of choking or gagging in this life, so she wouldn't take any medicine because of this fear of choking on it. That disappeared when she had this memory. And week by week, she would remember other lifetimes, all of her symptoms disappearing, some of the information we could validate. I still had trouble, for me, because I was so left-brained, so logical, so skeptical. But about the 5th time, something very strange happened to me, something very unusual. She died in a Middle Ages life, floated above her body, finding this beautiful light. And she said to me that there are 2 people here to see you, your father and your son. She didn't know anything about me. I don't even have diplomas in my office, because that's one rule of psychiatry. And she told me about my father and my son, both of whom had died. Their names, medical details, facts that only my wife and I knew, not even our best friends. Not even our family members knew everything, the medical conditions. And I asked her, where are you getting this information? She said, from spirits that are around me, by the light. She said, she called them Masters. Spirits, so that's how I got the name of the book. And that's how I was introduced to the concept of spiritual beings, or of masters. Now I know that in Brazil this is very much accepted and is known, but in the United States it's not, and I did not know this. One reason I feel so comfortable in Brazil is because we don't have to debate this. It's known, it happens, both past lives and spiritual dimensions. And so I was finding this. Now this was 26 years ago with Catherine, and since that time I've done this work, past life regression therapy, with more than 4,000 patients in my office, just one-to-one. But hundreds of thousands of patients in groups all over the world. Even in Belo Horizonte, I've done 2 workshops with groups. One, we had more than 1,000 people. And they would sit there, and while I was doing the workshop, go into this deep state, and we would do regressions in the group. It's very safe. And the percentage of people having experiences in Brazil and Belo are so high, more than in most other places, because people are open-minded to it. They don't block it by saying, I can't be, I don't believe in it, so it can't be real. It can be real. And that was how it began for me 26 years ago.
And was it very difficult for you, Dr. Weiss, to get rid of your skepticism and finally embrace the idea of past lives and reincarnation?
It was hard for me because I did not have a belief in it. But finally, with more and more patients, I did understand. And I would watch patients get better. For example, panic attacks, phobias, fears, these disappear. Physical pain. So for example, I would see someone with a fear of water. Catherine had a fear of water. I didn't even know about that. But those things would disappear when you remember the past life roots. Or say you have a fear of heights and you remember being thrown from a castle wall in the 14th century, and then it disappears. I've had people find their children from a past life. The children are 30 years older than they are, but they find them because they remember enough details. And children confirm all the memories that the patient is having. So when you find your children from a past life and they confirm your memory, that's very powerful. I found people speaking foreign languages they have never learned. For example, a woman from China, Beijing, a surgeon, a medical doctor, came to see me. With an interpreter, she spoke no English. She could not even say hello. And in her past life, she was in California around the year 1850, about 150 years ago. She was having an argument with her husband in that life. And she began, in my office, to speak in very colorful and fluent English. But the translator did not realize at first what was happening, so he translated the whole thing back into Chinese for me. And I had to hold up my hand and say, stop it, I understand the English. Then he almost fell out of his chair because he knew she could not even say hello 30 minutes before. So when I see all of these things, Leila, I know that it's real. There's so much proof.
And do you think that science will be able to fully explain it someday? I mean, it will go from the realm of mysticism or spiritualism, whatever they call it, to the realm of science?
I think that's already happening.
Yes,
I train...
even in the States, in Europe?
Even in the States and Europe, slowly. But every year I train several hundred therapists to do past life regression therapy. They're already therapists, but now I teach them how to do these techniques. They take it back home with them. For example, I trained 9 therapists from Japan last year. I have 3 from Brazil. So I'm watching this spread throughout the world. People are accumulating cases, data, information. So it's not like a blood test. It's not like DNA testing. But we're developing the clinical background, the foundation, just like Freud, just like psychoanalysis, except that we have thousands of more patients. So I think it's being confirmed scientifically, at least clinically.
Okay, Dr. Weiss, we'll have a short break now. And when we come back, I would like to talk to you about future lives, and especially about loving, forgiving, being patient, being tolerant, the lessons you talk about in your new book, which I find so relevant, especially at the beginning of a new year.
Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigada. A gente volta com o próximo bloco daqui a pouquinho. De volta com o Dr. Brian Weiss, autor de 7 livros, o mais recente que ele veio lançar aqui em Belo Horizonte, Muitas Vidas, Uma Só Alma. Dr. Brian Weiss, que já vendeu mais de 5 milhões de livros em todo o mundo, falando sobre a terapia de vidas passadas, sobre regressão, agora propõe uma viagem em direção ao futuro. Dr. Weiss, what about this journey into the future? How did you come upon the possibility of taking us into the future to heal us?
Well, all throughout my practice, Leila, people have been sometimes spontaneously going into the future, because as physicists know now, there is no time. And there are parallel dimensions and multiple futures, multiple universes, so it's very much confirmed by modern physics. And sometimes my patients would spontaneously go into the future lifetimes or the future of this life. It doesn't mean that it's absolutely correct, because we can change the future. It's flexible. You may, instead of going to this future, go to this one or to this one, as you change, as you make decisions in your current life. And I also began to study something called precognitive dreams. People with near-death experiences or quasi-mort experiencias, they often develop the ability to have these dreams of the future, and they're accurate. They come to me and I study this. They dream of accidents or illnesses or danger, oftentimes, and the dreams are like an early warning system. They help the person to avoid or minimize the danger. So I thought, if people can dream about the future in their dreams, why not, if I put them into this very relaxed hypnotic state, why can't they do the same thing and go to the future? And they can. People are doing that, and accurately.
Amazing.
It is, but there really is no time. I think the physicists are correct.
It's a continuum.
Yes, a continuum. And the really important time is the present, because the future will happen. You can make it a better future by your decisions now. If you learn your lessons to be nonviolent, to be more loving, more empathic, more compassionate, then you will change the future in a better way.
Yeah, but that's precisely the point that puzzles me. How much can you change your future? I mean, if you have the question of free will and fate, how strong is our free will if you have fate?
I think there are both in free will and destiny or destino. It's this. They both exist, but it's like this. I'll just give you one example. There are certain people in your life that you have to meet. That's destiny, because you've arranged before you were even born to work together or to be together. It's not always almas gemelas. It can be a parent or someone who changes your life. It's not always romantic, but it can be. But you meet these people, and that's destiny. No matter, you're supposed to meet, and you will. But what you decide after you meet, that's the free will. For example, let's say it's romantic, and you meet this person, and you're living in Belo Horizonte, and they live in Porto Alegre, and you say, no, that's too far away, or you're not rich enough, or you come from the wrong class, or or my parents don't like you, or something like that. That's your free will blocking it, because you could also say, let's get married, or I'm going to make this commitment because I really feel love in my heart for this person. I don't care if they live in Porto Alegre. I'm going to travel, or they'll travel. So meeting the person is destino, but the decisions afterwards are free will. And every time you make that free will decision, you change the future.
Yes.
For example, Leila in the future can come and talk to you now and affect you now to help you with a decision so that you connect to the best future for you. This one. Say that you're an author and you want to write a book, a novel.
Yes.
In one future, you've already written that novel. Your job is to connect to that future, not to the one where you did not or you did something else.
So it's always a question of making choices.
Always making choices, but the correct choice is always about love and compassion and helping others. When you're doing that, you're making the correct choices. The correct choice is to let go of fear. That's what gets in the way. And instead of fear, you replace it with love or compassion. So I teach people, how do you let go of fear? How do you get rid of anger, fear, negative emotions? Because these cause you to make the wrong decisions.
How do we do it, Dr. Weiss? Why is it so difficult to get rid of anger, to get rid of fear, lack of patience?
Yes, we're so conditioned. We're so conditioned that it's hard to do that. It's hard to throw off the old. Even if we were taught something when we were 3 or 4, it may not be correct, but because it's so old, we think, I'm familiar with that, or I'm comfortable with that, but it may not be correct. It may be from fear or holding you back.
Yeah.
And so if you can get rid of fear, you're going to feel so much happier. And also stop worrying so much. We worry so much. There's an old saying about enjoying a good cup of tea. A good cup of tea. Because it's sweet, and if you're worrying about the future, planning is okay, but worrying is wasting time. Or if you're ruminating, obsessing about the past over and over again, you will look down at your cup of tea and it will be empty. You drank it, but you don't have any memory of it. You missed the entire experience.
You haven't enjoyed it at all.
Not at all. Yeah. But if you're mindful with the tea now, because you're not in the future and not in the past and not fearful and not thinking of this and thinking of that, then you can enjoy the sweet taste and savor the aroma and enjoy it completely. The tea is a metaphor for life.
Yes.
If we're mindful,
for the moment.
Yes.
Because exactly the question of going into the past and going into the future, the feeling I have is that every time we think about the past, we think about it with nostalgia, and every time we try to think about the future, we worry about it. Yes. It's like they're contaminated, both of them. So to learn from the past and from the future, we have to how can we say it? Decontaminate.
You have to detoxify from negative emotions, which means fear, anger, sadness, grief.
Why are we at such a loss? Why is there so much anguish, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, phobias? It's like a network of negative feelings, and we feel trapped and we don't know how to get out of it.
Exactly, but we are not trapped. For example, in past life therapy, you can see where the phobias come from. You can see your real nature. The trap is when we don't see ourselves. We're not the bodies or the brains. We're the spiritual beings. We're immortal. We're eternal. And there's a great deal of evidence that this is the case. When you see yourself in this way, when you know that after the death of the physical body, you go on, your consciousness, your soul, you review the life, you learn from it, you plan another life. You never stop. You're always being reunited with your loved ones. For all of these reasons, when you see your true nature, the spiritual self, these fears begin to diminish, and that's the way out.
So would you say that we need to be more tuned to the spiritual side of life instead of consuming and buying and acquiring and
Yes.
being able or unable to afford things?
Yes, absolutely, because I treat so many wealthy people, I have over the years in my position as chairman of the psychiatry department, who have been miserable, and some people without any money who have been happy. It's not about that. Those are outer things. Real security comes from the inside, from love, from knowing that you are safe because you're a spiritual being, a soul. And so I think it's important for Brazil not to be seduced by the values, for example, in the United States, which is materialistic and acquisitive. It brings a great deal of misery. To me, people need only 4 things, really: food, shelter or housing, education, and health care. If everybody had those 4 things, that's fine, that's enough. Everybody could then work on the other things that are more important. So for me, the function of government is to provide those 4 things at least to the people, to take care of the people, make sure everybody has food, shelter, health care, and education.
And then we have to provide for the rest, which lies inside.
Yes, the rest is inside. So the way to happiness is this way, not this way. And that's why so many people in the United States are unhappy. It's a very good place to practice psychiatry because we have so many patients, so many miserable people.
Yeah, you will never have a problem with the practice.
No, there's no shortage of patients.
Yes. So, Dr. Weiss, just to round off this conversation, because it's the beginning of a new year, the beginning of a new cycle, and we are especially prone at this time of year to reflecting upon values and things, what would you say are the most important lessons you've learned from our past lives, our future lives, and 4,000 patients you've traveled with?
The most important thing is to know that we never die, because we're never really born. The soul comes into a body and it leaves a body. So if you start realizing your true nature, fears will disappear. We never die. We're always being reunited with our loved ones.
Are you an optimist? Do you think we'll be able to love in a better, in a more healthy way in the near future? Because I think we are so incompetent for loving.
It's very hard. But I know in the far future we're okay, because that's in the new book. I gave questionnaires to 7,000 people that I brought to different ages in the future. 150 years from now, 500 years, and 1,000 years. And in 1,000 years, the world was idyllic, green. There were no deserts, no illness, no wars, no violence. People were living more in nature, but the population was much, much lower. And the real question is, how did we get there? What happened in the middle period? Not so much now. The next 100 years are more of the same. We don't have to worry. We don't disappear.
So you promise me I will live long enough to see this idyllic world.
There's
because
no
we
question.
never die.
You will be watching it either here or on the other side. We never die.
Oh, okay. I think one day we will deserve something much better than what we have at the moment.
Yes, we're all just have to realize our potential. We all deserve more because we're souls. We're spirits too.
Yes.
And we forgot that. And all we have to do is remember.
Okay, Dr. Weiss, thank you so much. So nice talking to you.
Leila, muito obrigado também.
Muito obrigada. Obrigada por essa visita ao Brasil e essa conversa conosco.
Um prazer.
A gente conversou então com o Dr. Brian Weiss. A gente termina o programa de hoje com essas palavras que dão margem a muita reflexão. Acho que a gente tem que pensar sobre tudo isso que ele nos disse e começar o ano com o coração mais leve, mais aberto, com mais capacidade para fazer os outros felizes e depois a gente também um pouquinho. A gente volta a se encontrar na próxima semana.